So let's do a quick introduction for those who do not know Nandini already. I am going to start with a very important job of Nandini. She is a mom of two children, 8 years old and 4 years old. She is an engineer, and she is now the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of Speakfully. And I want to give Nandini the most time to talk over here. I know we're going to run out of time. So I'm just going to do like some of the important announcements in the beginning and then let Nandini talk, okay? Because that's why we're here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We really hope that everyone joining us from India is doing well. It has been a rough few days. And I know we have gone through it here too, so definitely understand the pain. And we are so glad everyone could join. Thank you for joining, and thank you, Nandini, and over to you. Please do tell us a little bit of something about your journey. And I'm going to say, right from you choosing to be in the STEM field, how you got the support from your family for that, to, coming to the US, your journey through having kids, working, work-life integration, and Speakfully, because that's a really important company. So please do tell us.
Firstly, I just want to start off saying thank you to all of you at Intelliswift for having me here. It really is an honor, and it was so heartwarming to hear that you are starting this whole series of women in leadership. So that's a huge message that you're putting out as an organization, and I applaud you. I applaud all of you for doing that, and thanks for having me kickstart that. It warms my heart quite a bit. And then before I get into talk about me, I did want to, do a quick shout out to everyone joining from India. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. It's been very hard for those of us, sitting here on the sidelines, I would say, miles and miles away, thousands of miles away, just watching our home country burn like this. But that pain is nothing compared to what you're going through. You're in it if you're logged in from India. So wish you the best, wish you good health, wish you safety more than anything. So we'll beat this. I know that we will beat this. So about me. So my name is Nandini Easwar, and I am currently the CTO and co-founder at a small startup called Speakfully. I will come to, I'll talk a little bit about my journey and come to how Speakfully happened and, the mission behind what we're doing. Interesting, Sangeeta, when you asked me about the entry into the STEM field, I was recently saying this to some other folks at SRCC who was doing a talk there not so long ago. And I was talking about how I entered the field when I was in eighth grade. And, it was totally like dating myself here, but it was, so many years ago where, there was this elective subject that I was given an option when I was in eighth. And I had to choose either computer science, computer programming, or you could do, the other option was, I believe, home science. They call it home science in India, which is, more arts and creative curriculum. So I chose computer science because it just felt very liberating to me, to be able to actually write lines of code and, dictate to something that, ask it to do what you want it to do. So it was actually very empowering and liberating in some ways. But interesting fact is, when I kind of took computer science in eighth grade, I was just one of about 8 or 10 girls, right? In a school where you can imagine we were probably close to 250, 300 students in just one grade. And I was probably like 8 or 10 of them. And the rest of them went for the more creative field. But, back in the day, they didn't really actually explain the tech field very well to you. I wasn't educated about what my career would look like if I took, the field of tech. but I wanted to figure that out for myself. So I took, I took computer science and I just loved it. So that really was my entry into the field of STEM. When I kind of finished my 12th, like high school, and I had to like get into college, I was actually torn between going into engineering school, staying completely technical, or actually being a lawyer. Interestingly, I mean, it comes from, I come from a family where my father's a lawyer, and so it was basically, this interesting dynamic. Oh, should I just, go into the field of law, or take on STEM? I made a decision at that point, and it's ironic because my father actually sat me down and kind of explained the perils of being a woman in as a woman lawyer in India. And somehow, I don't know, this naive person in me kind of believed that, oh, it's probably going to be better in the field of tech. So, let me actually take it. That seemed like an easy path to me at that time. And I laugh about it now. I mean, hindsight is 2020, right? But you kind of laugh about it now. So yeah, that was really how I got into the field of STEM and technology. I came from a family that actually believed very significantly in the education system. So there was never really a doubt about what I had to do to really go and get myself the basic education. And that just sparked interest in me. So I was very, very fortunate to have a family that was very supportive of it. And so I went on to do my engineering. I studied in Pune University. I finished my engineering there, and I decided I wanted to do my master's and moved to the United States. So I did what a lot of thousands of people, hundreds and millions of people actually do, which is apply, come here, get your master's degree, and sort of like immigrate into the United States. So I followed the standard path, came in, got myself a job, and then very quickly realized that my passion and my interest was not just in the field of tech, but in really knowing how you sort of connect the dots to the business that you're trying to help out with tech. So, I mean, I always, when young students now come and talk about a choice between going to business school or going to like tech school, I'm like, I want to tell them that, at the end of the day, when you come into the field and when you're working in an environment, these two aren't very different. You have to find the connection between the business and the tech, and that's what's going to that's what's going to give you success. That's what's going to help you grow. I loved it. I loved finding the connection between tech and how that impacted the bottom line. So I went in, and started working on various projects, kind of grew through the ranks. I worked for many years at an insurance company based in San Francisco. And I was very passionate about what we were building, creating the architecture and knowing how, that drove the business trajectory. That really was very interesting for me. But every time I sort of got what you call as a promotion, so it's such a overloaded word these days, but every time you sort of got that elevation to a different title, let's just go with a different title. So when that happened, suddenly you kind of look around you, and the peer group starts to look very different. And Sangeeta, we were just talking before this call about how the numbers of women entering the field of tech is almost the same as the number of men entering the field in tech in India. Specifically, you were sharing some really insightful numbers. So the problem's never been about the entry into the field, but I think it's really about how you're able to sustain and grow through the field and break these invisible glass ceiling, if you would. It's again another overused word, but kind of have to go through that journey. I did. Went through. I was heading up most of engineering at the insurance company I was working at, and then life sort of happened to me. There was this epiphany that I had right around the time that I also became a mom for the second time. And when I had my younger child, I just had to pause. I just could not get myself to come back and work in a tech field for the sake of just doing technology, for the sake of just doing the work, because it just had lost its purpose for me. I did it. So I actually finally pulled the plug and said, I'm just going to pause. I'm going to take a break. There was just so much confusion in my head at that time about, before I arrived at the decision to actually to quit. It was very hard. I look back now, of course, and I'm just laughing because it was something I really wanted to do, but I was just kidding myself in, believing in sort of making me believe that, work was very important for me. It really wasn't. At that point, my priority, my life had changed. And I didn't want to miss some of the firsts that happened with my younger one. I'd missed a lot of that with my older one. So it was a priority shift for me, and I wasn't very comfortable before I made the decision. But once I did, I reached a place where there was just a lot of comfort in it. I was at peace. It took me some time. I had to go through the journey. It's like that classic imposter syndrome. But you kind of go through that journey and realize that it's all right to do it. And yeah, and then there was this, like I was saying, I had this epiphany that if I was going to go back into the workforce and actually work, it had to be for a good cause. It had to be for a good reason. So so I did what everyone does, just start looking for jobs. And then my search criteria changed very drastically. And the same me 3-4 years before that, I would have not done that. I would have really looked for something that's more outgoing, that's just more purposeful in terms of just business itself. So obviously, it was a change that I kind of embraced in myself. And that's when I actually met Jana Morin. She's the co-founder and Speakfully. In fact, she was the first founder. And the reason Speakfully exists today is actually because of her. She unfortunately had a very negative workplace mistreatment experience that she had to endure. And that changed her life, that changed the course of her life. And so she went back and you know paused and looked back at what she had experienced, at what she had gone through, and she thought about what is it that she wished she could have had when she was experiencing a form of mistreatment at her work, and how she could have potentially not come to a negative exit, from the way that it had to, where she had to leave. And that led to her thinking about the Speakfully idea. And that's where I met her. That's when I met her. And we sort of joined forces at that point and built the platform. So I come in with the tech hat. It was a great experience for me because it allowed me to bring my prior technology background into doing something that's more mission driven. And Jana comes from a business and an operational background. So together, it seemed like we were onto something. So we built Speakfully from that point onwards. This was all back in 2019. 2019 feels like so far away now.
Yes.
So, it feels like a decade ago, but really not that far ago. Yeah, so Speakfully, I did want to talk, you asked me to talk a bit about Speakfully. We're a tech solution to help organizations and individuals navigate any workplace discomfort or mistreatment that they're going through. Mistreatment, again, is a very broad word. Workplace experiences is probably even broader. But I would like to point out that we like to use the word experiences more so because it can be both positive and negative. We don't want to come out and basically allude to the fact that any experience that you have is negative. From an organization leadership perspective, a lot of us in this room have probably been on that side. You want your employees to come forward and talk to you and give you feedback on the things that you're doing right, on the things that you're doing wrong, so that you can essentially bridge that gap. So Speakfully is essentially a tech solution. Think of it as a product that you offer, is like a benefit that you offer to the employees, and they have a way to come out and talk to you either anonymously or non-anonymously, because no one should fear retaliation based on identity, and we want to change that status quo. That's our mission. So we give that option, and the tool allows you to talk in confidence with leadership, and express anything that may have been right, that may have been wrong, so you can get in front of any potential risks and problems in your organization and fix it. But we also, that's of course our monetary product, that's the organizational product, enterprise level. But we also have a free version because we believe nobody should really experience mistreatment and navigate it alone. So we do have a product that's available for anyone that can go in and sign up on our website and help yourself, through the situation with Speakfully right by your side. So that's what we do, and it's been about 3 years since Speakfully was born. It's been an incredible journey, and granted, I started my journey in tech, but really now at Speakfully, I feel like I'm wearing so many different hats, and I just love it, and every aspect of it has just been wonderful and so rewarding in so many ways. It's such a huge learning experience for me. So that's where I am today.
Lovely. I know we had spoken earlier, and I had mentioned, that sometimes I feel like women are like the mom from Incredibles with those long arms, because we tend to have so many things to do. And, there's a lot of multitasking that goes on.
Correct.
For example, I know several people on our team that I'm working with in India who are, they are moms. They are doing, especially during the pandemic, people are working from home. That means they're actually working longer hours because they're pretty much in front of the computer. They have the kids. A lot of people have little kids like yourself to take care of. A lot of folks live with the rest of their family. So, they have the parents and other folks in the house that have certain expectations from them. And they want to do a good job of what they want to do. And you touched upon so many different things, as it is, as women, I feel we carry around a lot of guilt. And, do you think as women, we try to overcompensate?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, all the time. I mean, we're born that way, we're wired that way. We want to do everything and we want to do everything right. So I totally get it. I mean, it's been such a challenge, especially in these recent times with the pandemic. It's completely changed our perspective in our world, right? My brother once said to me, he's like, we're no longer working from home. We're actually living at work. So it's a whole that kind of sums it up, right? You're kind of thinking about work all the time, and I've been there, and I was telling you this morning, I woke up, and this probably happens to most of the moms here. That I woke up this morning thinking I needed a little bit of headspace so I can think about the conversation I'm about to have and meet all of you. And of course, my younger one decides that he wants to wake up being very cranky and very grumpy, and and there was this big chaos that happened. So as a result, yes, headspace is out the window, right? So it's I think I found a couple things that have helped me, which I'll share. I'm happy to share here, and hope that it can help you as well. I like to I've learned, I shouldn't say I like to, I've learned in very recent times to actually compartmentalize what I'm doing. So one of the things is to unlearn what you have learned or what you're wired to do, which is multitasking all the time. So you got to unlearn that skill and go into complete serial processing, and let's not even attempt doing that, because you're just going to freeze at the end of the day. You get so completely overwhelmed. So I've learned to compartmentalize. So if I'm basically on a call, I'm on a call. I'm not trying to look at multiple screens at the same time. Or if I'm with my kids, I'm 100% with them. That I found actually has gone a long way in bringing harmony in the whole family, I should say, because somehow that 5 minutes of quality time with the kids, and just hearing what happened at school. What are you doing? What's homework all about? Just something simple. That 5 minutes of quality time actually, goes a long way. It's far better than an hour of, multitasking time. So that's helped me. And but it's something that I had to like learn. I had to unlearn my multitasking skills and try and learn this. So that's helped me out. The other thing I've done recently is find like an hour somewhere randomly in the middle of the day where I completely like do a digital detox. I couldn't find a better word for it, but like, digitally, like just shut everything, shut off my phone, like my watch and, emails and all of it. And like literally like either just go for a walk or like take a physical book or actually just sit and do absolutely nothing. That has helped me also in finding that mental balance. It's also about the mental wellness, right? So it's given me that sense of doing it. Could be anything. I know a very good friend of mine loves to, completely like shut off when she's going on a hike, and so she would just go and she'd be off the grid for like, a few hours, and she'd come back and say, okay, roll up her sleeves and tell me what you got. 5 kids, no worries, I can handle it. So I think you need that, time to sort of re-energize and regenerate in some ways.
It's very true. I have heard that from so many people. In fact, myself, when sometimes I will drag my kids out to go for a walk, especially during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm doing so on the weekdays, and even if it's later in the evening, I am constantly looking at my phone, and my kids will actually say to me,
Yeah.
Mom, why did you ask us to come for a walk if you were going to be on your phone?
Correct.
And I turn around and say, well, this is work. It's not just play. I'm not looking at Facebook. And then I realize, but it doesn't matter to them. What matters to them is I'm not giving them the time, And so I have now decided that if I'm going on a walk, that phone's going to be in my pocket and I'm not looking at it. So
yes. Try leaving
definitely
it back at home.
Yes, that's true too. That's true. So just there are things at home that we can do to prioritize and manage expectations. What about the workplace? Do you think when women need to be heard at the workplace, when and I don't like to use the word empower because it's been used so much, but really to feel valued at the workplace, do men and women have different functions in bringing up women? I mean, do they approach things differently? Have you seen? And how can we do things better?
That's a very interesting question, and I wish that it would actually be talked about a lot more. And it's yes, the short answer is yes. Men and women and other genders too actually need to really address this topic differently, for the fundamental reason that we're just wired differently. Our DNAs are different, and for no other reason. And when you're talking about a workplace, when you're talking about women who are essentially like trying to build their careers, and whether they're wanting to, whatever track they're wanting to choose, however they're wanting to grow their careers, it's their choice, right? I think there has to be a sense of purpose in making sure that the organization sets that tone, so that the women are essentially celebrated and embraced, but not do it in a way where it essentially becomes completely unauthentic, where you're not really just coming out and promoting women just because you want to check the box and say, I want a diverse leadership team, so let me essentially like just promote someone out of order. I think the tone really needs to come and get set from the top. I think that's very important. We in the United States are realizing now the importance of leadership. We're seeing it happen right in front of us, in the political space. But you kind of know this is where the importance of leadership comes into play. What's the tone and the message that you're essentially setting from the top? Are you basically saying that there's a unified framework where everybody is basically promoted or given opportunities to sort of, move, shift, move upwards, move laterally, whatever it is, based on the same set of criteria, based on the same uniform, way of looking at things? Or are you just doing it because you have a different agenda? If you've got that different agenda, then you're basically going back into the spiral hole where you think your agenda may be to check off a diversity council box or like a D&I box, but you're essentially now setting a tone and saying, oh, if someone is diverse, I'm basically not giving, then the same criteria as someone else. And you're already creating that bias. You're confirming to that bias as an organization. So it has to be based on individual skill and substance. Recognize the person for the individual skill and substance, whether it's a woman, a male, or any other non-binary gender. You got to basically level the playing field. Bottom line, women and men have, can approach that mission in two different ways. I think, my message to men is always, your actions actually speak louder than words. So, show by how you're essentially talking and interacting with your women peers, with your women leaders, with your women subordinates. Regardless, how are you communicating with them? And a simple way of acknowledging somebody for something, it goes a long way, right?
True.
So those
Very
things
true.
are very important. So men need to recognize that they are different from women, and embracing that difference and celebrating that difference is the way that you would actually like act upon it. Don't Do you have to, like, let's say you're a male leader and you want to, be the male ally and you have the right intentions. You have to first and foremost acknowledge that, dealing with a woman is actually going to be different than dealing with a male gender, right? So recognizing the difference, and it may mean you have to be more sensitive in certain ways. It may mean you have to actually be more open about it, or try a different tone in your conversation. It may mean, differences, but that's what I'm trying to say here, is embrace that difference and recognize that that difference is all right, but make sure that you kind of level the playing field. At the end of the day, it needs to be identical. For women, if you're a woman leader who basically wants to, again, chime in and support this mission, it's super important to also recognize how you've been through that journey and how you need to, provide, the space for someone else to be successful. It's our moral responsibility at the end of the day. We have to really just go through that aspect entirely. Leadership, women leadership, I've kind of seen it play out, about a decade ago. We're in 2021 now, probably about, 8-10 years ago. Women leaders had to behave differently
Yeah.
because they had to almost fit in and become a male just to fit in, I guess. And that leadership style does not have to be anymore, and I think we've made strides as a society, as organizations, as corporations. We've made long strides to getting it to a place where we're okay knowing that we are diverse. And diversity does not mean, skin color or orientation, or race. It really basically is diversity of opinion and perspectives. So, you want to basically be very inclusive of all of those opinions. And the way you want to do that is not try to mimic being someone else. So know the difference, know that you are different, and, sort of embrace that difference and play with it. It's
Well
actually fun.
said. I like that. I know we don't have very much time left. I want to get to the questions, but I do want to ask you one thing before that. The pandemic, or becoming a mom, or in some cases having to look after parents, there are so many things that we need to do. It's not just women. Men tend to do that too, but a lot of times women end up doing a lot of these things, and you have to take a break from work. And you touched upon it a little bit, in your own case. In my case, I took 12 years off, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that, right? But in cases where people have to take that, and women have to get back into the workforce, what do you have to say to those women? Is it okay to take the time off? I know you said it really depends on our priorities. How does that affect them getting back into the workforce? What can others do to welcome these women back?
Yeah, great question again. It's you got to stop being hard on yourself. I think that's the big message that I want to give out here. um, it's okay to do what you want to do. Pat yourself on the back for everything that you've done. And it's okay to be comfortable in your skin and really come out and say, I want to do this. And if that doing this means taking a break from work, deciding not to ever go back to work, that could be a decision as well. Regardless of what path you choose, my message is be comfortable in that choice and that decision that you make. And just, we all as women, and all of us in this room, we have this huge responsibility to be supportive of each other, and making sure that, anyone that's kind of going through this, and we, don't have to be hard on ourselves at all. Kudos to you for like taking 12 years off and being comfortable about that. I took about a 2-year break as well, and for me it was very satisfying. Yes, I was struggling to make the decision, and once I did and came out on the other side, I looked back and said, that was so stupid. Like, why would I even think twice about it? This is my child, and I want to do this. Why would I think twice about it? So I think it's important to you know, um, embrace again that decision, and feel comfortable doing so. And if it could not just your child, it could just be a mental break. You might just want to say, you know what, I want to go, travel the world. Well, not this year, but you want to take a break and do something. It's okay to do that. Re-entering the workforce does not have to be a daunting task, and it does not have to be the fear of re-entering that actually makes you not want to quit or not want to take that break. You may want to care for the elderly, care for your parents, your family. It could be any number of reasons. Um, when you re-enter, remember that you're now way richer in experience than you were before you took that break. When you were working and did not have that break, you had a very single dimensional view of it. Not saying it's a bad thing, because there are a lot of people who don't want to take the break as well, but you gain a very different view of things. It's like the other side of the coin, and now you're thinking about how you're going to juggle, and it gives you a sense of what's priority for you. It's very, what's priority for me is very different for you. So I think knowing that and that break helps you get that perspective. When you go back and go out and look for jobs, you're going to guarantee be applying for jobs that look way different than what you were before you took that break. And that can be very, very refreshing. I think, it's like rinse, and take a break, and refresh and repeat.
Repeat.
It's all good. It's all good.
All right. So I have a couple of questions. I'm going to ask you from folks who have sent them in. Can you tell us how your confidence has evolved over the years?
Yeah, it's been a huge evolution. I went from, confidence in different aspects. I think today I'm very, very confident about who I am and confident about being myself and being me. I like being me. Few years ago, my confidence was very low in that arena. And I was, I tried to compensate it in different ways and hide that confidence, that lack of that confidence. We all do that. We've all kind of done that, I guess, through our lives. Every experience has actually given me a point of view that I did not have before. And that's helped me internalize myself and getting to a place where my confidence has significantly increased in who I am. And I no longer feel the need to hide certain things. I was ashamed at one point to say I'm not working, but I'm not. I am, clearly I've talked about this so many times just in this hour, but I'm not anymore. So that confidence has grown for me through everything that I've done. And most of the mistakes that I've made, has actually helped me gain that confidence. And I've made tons of those mistakes. So it's changed. It definitely has evolved for me.
That's nice because, today we don't just necessarily have women who are in the workforce. There are women who have been in the workforce that are not necessarily in the workforce any longer. And it is very important,
Yeah.
everything that you, like you said, everything that you have done has been a lesson. And now you're confident in yourself with whatever you're doing or not doing. So,
Or not doing, or not
yeah,
doing. I like that very much,
yeah,
and I mean, you've dealt with like and we all have dealt with this pandemic now, so in some form or shape or form. So I think that should actually go a long, long way in recognizing what we're all capable of.
great. And people would like to know what would you like to tell your younger self, about your journey, about where you are now, or also in other words, how would you talk to an emerging female leader?
um Patience. I think I would want to teach myself patience. If I had to go back to my 8 or 10 year old, I would basically say be patient. Everything, all the dues come at when it's due. Let's not try to crank things so that the dues come sooner. I think, and by dues I mean satisfaction, confidence, just overall happiness and everything that you do. So I think I would teach myself patience for sure, and that would be my message to all the other women too.
Great. Here's another question.
Mhm.
During the pandemic, being at home, we share more responsibilities than men. How can we perform our best or fullest within the same 24 hours clock?
Oh, yeah. $1 million problem. I was, like I said earlier, what's helped me is compartmentalizing. I think I've decided I have to channelize what I'm doing and um, find that balance doing so. You are not going to be able to accomplish, 10 things in 24 hours if you cannot, I mean, that's just how it is. That's the nature of it. So there's two messages maybe. One, don't attempt to do everything in the 24-hour span. Maybe give yourself a little bit more room, and it's okay to not do something. It's okay to say, I'm going to procrastinate, push this out to tomorrow, and let's deal with it then. And it's also okay to, come out and, just say one thing only at one particular time. It's the joys of serial processing that it's not may not sound efficient, but guess what, it is to the mind.
That's true. So what you're saying is do your best. It doesn't have to be your fullest.
It totally doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, and don't beat yourself about it. If you can do it in 24 hours, you know what, there's another 24 that's coming tomorrow, so we'll deal with it then.
Yeah. And that I think I can also tell from experience. We beat ourselves up too much over, oh, I could have done this better. Maybe if I had not done this. And I think in some ways, age is a great teacher, all this experience where you say, it doesn't really matter that much later on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's another question. How do we bridge the gap post a career break? I think that's a great question, by the way.
And I'm assuming you mean bridging the gap of, the men and women, the equity, or what
I
kind of.
guess having, so let's say you were at a certain level when you left and now you took a
Oh,
career break and then you come back and you're probably at a lower level than when you started.
Well, the level kind of is all a little bit in your head too. I think when you take a break, come back with a different set of expectations. I think that would be the message. Know that it's not necessarily a step back or going down a level. But you kind of have to go back and maybe go back into the details a little bit just to sort of gain that perspective. But remember, nobody takes that experience that you've had in the past away from you. That's yours to hold. So that's actually going to go a long way. It may seem like, I mean, I did this when I came back. I had to go back into very hands-on coding. I had to like learn new coding languages. I did that, and that's actually paid off significantly for me, because now suddenly I find myself, you know, knowing something that's new and modern in terms of the tech languages, and I have this whole leadership experience that I've had from my past world. Combine the two, and you have a whole different way of doing it. So it's not. I wouldn't think of it as a gap, but I would think of it more as an opportunity to reskill and meet the market.
Okay. I know we don't have very much time left. There
Yeah.
is one more question, and I'm going to kind of combine it with something that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
So the question is, what is the biggest stigma you have had to face as a female leader, and how did you deal with it? And I'm going to combine it with the question that I had for you to end this, conversation of ours. So from engineering school to co-founding your own company, does it ever get easier as you rise in the ranks? So kind of trying to combine, have
Yeah.
you had to face these
Yes.
kind of things?
Yes, I definitely did. We all, I guess, do in some shape or form. But one of the biggest things that happened to me was just the gender bias. I think the gender bias itself was so huge, and it was so in my face that it felt like a stigma to me at that point. Just because I am me and I am a woman and I can be, I had the leadership traits in me, and so there was a period of time when that may have actually been held against me as well. But you kind of learn to deal with it. I was thinking about this the other day when I was even at one point told by someone that there was another male counterpart that was very aggressive and in his style, and I was dealing with it with equal aggression. I had to. That's the way I was dealing with it then. And I and my manager at that point, his advice to me was, oh, this person comes from this certain place, I won't mention where, but like a place in a European country where people are by culture like very aggressive, so you've just got to put up with it. I was like, you have no idea which culture I come from, like, let's roll up my sleeve.
Roll
But
up the sleeves.
yeah, that essentially is not the excuse or the reason for anyone to behave badly, I would say. So I think those are the kind of experiences that you go through, and you kind of deal with the situation head on and actually call things out. Call it out as, look, this is a bias here, and I don't want you to conform to this bias, and I have no tolerance for it. Here's my boundary, and let's make sure we stick to that. I think that's an important message for every woman going through their journey, that define your boundary and make sure that that's communicated very clearly. We tend to hold things close to heart and not communicate, but unless you come out and call it out and say it, no one's going to know about it. So, to the second part of the question, it does get easier. And you know why? Because it's actually more in the head. It's more in your head. You make it difficult for you, as you're navigating the situation. I mean, you very generally, because, I did that a lot. I overthink things, I would, draft stuff out in my head and, like imagine a situation that may have been so much more simpler than what it was in my head. So, I think we're all responsible for making the situation complicated for ourselves. As your confidence grows, as you get more comfortable in your skin, and as you feel more liberated, it does actually get easier. So that's the answer.
That's great. I have to share one thing. When I was working in New York,
Yeah.
my boss, after working there for a couple of years, told me, "Oh, wow." He looked at me one day and said, "When I hired you, I thought I was hiring a quiet little Indian princess." And I said, Well, you got part of it right. I am not quiet and I'm not little, but I'm definitely an Indian princess. so so that was kind of funny, but yeah, I guess we all have these little situations that have happened.
Correct.
I just want to thank you very much. I wanted to mention one last thing that you had mentioned to me before. And maybe you want to say it in your own words. You had told me something to think about the glass ceiling. Can you tell us what you told me about the glass ceiling?
Yeah, sure. I was, more and more I think about the glass ceiling and how we all talk about it as something that's, what's the glass ceiling? It's things that we believe is an invisible, roof that you keep hitting as women are trying to grow through the ranks. I've been reading recently, and there's, I'm educating myself with this. It's a perspective that we all need to basically like just give up and shatter, because the glass ceiling, or talking about the glass ceiling, basically assumes that the non-women gender, or like the male gender, I would say, is essentially holding that ceiling on top of your head, and you automatically assume a sense of submission in some ways, where you're now trying to like break free and like come out of it, and like, it's like a little jumping jack coming out of it. It doesn't have to be. I think the more and more we talk about the glass ceiling, more and more we're actually like confirming again that, that gap does exist. So let's not talk about that, and let's essentially assume that everything needs to be on level playing field, needs to be equal, and all we're saying is give me the equal opportunity. I think that's all, women are saying, and we've said it for hundreds of centuries now. But I think now comes a time where this is so widely talked about, so widely spoken. Now we need to like stop calling it the glass ceiling. I think that's a perspective I'm learning now, and I'll certainly do my best trying to, not really talk about it, but it's, let's figure out how we kind of grow with it together, not necessarily in the idea of having to break something.
Great. So get rid of all these preconceived notions and do your best and do you, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Nandini.
Of course.
You are a lot younger than me, but all I want to say is I want to grow up to be like you. So,
so sweet. Thank you. That warms my heart. But thank you so much for having me. I think, I really want to applaud, the initiative itself. It's amazing to see organizations step up and actually start a series like this. So very happy to be here.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody who has been a part of this talk. Thank you for your contributions with the questions. And thank you for being here. Thanks, Nandini. And we hope to see you again.
Yes, likewise. Yes, thank you.